Hello everybody. Thanks for watching, if you have, my previous Amazon web scraping SQL database videos. So today I'm actually going to try and make some sense of the data which I've scraped and that I have stored in the MySQL database. So if you've watched previous videos, you'll know that I've created a database with pipelines, the coding pipelines, which is one of the files inside the Scrapy framework, and it has collected me 74 items or rows in the database. They are Amazon web scraping books in paperback format. So I won't go over that too much because you may have seen my other videos and I don't want to bore you if you've already watched those. So what I've done is I've created a virtual environment called Pandas, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some code which will use Pandas and Matplotlib to create a graph. It's going to be kind of the first step on the journey to making clever graphs, and we'll start relatively simply. So let's begin. If you want to see some code, we are going to call it, let's just call it app.py. Open up Micro. Micro is my text editor. Feel free to use Vim, VS Code or whatever. .py. Make a graph from MySQL data from Scrapy. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make a graph, and obviously we need to use numeric values. So the numeric values that we have collected from Amazon with our web scraper have been decimal, which were ratings, and price. So we're going to try to make a graph, and we wanted to see if there's a correlation between the price of the book and what rating it got. For instance, if people pay more for a book, is it common that they give it a nice good rating? Are expensive books better? Or are people happier when they get a cheap book and they think it's really good and they give it a good rating because it didn't cost very much? Let's go. So we want to, this thing is import pandas as PD. So if you've ever used pandas before, the convention is to import pandas as PD. It just makes it shorter when you're writing when you're referring to pandas library each time. What would you want to do next? We want to import matplotlib .pyplot as PLT. So we'll be using PD and we'll be using PLT throughout our code. Next, let's import PyMySQL, and let's do plot style. This is where we specify what type of graph we want, and ggplot is what you put in if you want a bar graph. So I don't want any other type of graph, just a standard bar graph. Right, so we've done our imports. What we want to do is we want to import data from the database into Pandas, and from Pandas, once it's done the query, we will pass the data frame. A data frame is an object in Pandas which can then be used with Matplotlib. Okay, connect to DB. Then we want to do something like dbcon equals, so we're going to create a connection object, so mysql.connect and then we need to specify the name of the host, local host, the username to connect to the database. So we've used user1 throughout our project. If you've seen my other videos, you'll know that's what I've used. Obviously, if you've done it, then you'll have your own username and password conventions. Obviously, you wouldn't use anything that insecure in a production environment. Right, now we need to do a try, because obviously there's potential here that the connection to the database may fail, so we want to handle that if indeed it fails to connect. So SQL underscore query equals PD. So PD we're referring to the pandas module. PD, here we go, read underscore SQL underscore query. So possibly this here is one of the most important parts of this entire piece of code. Obviously it all needs to work, but this is kind of the feature, the main part of what we're doing here. So select star underscore rating, which is what we've called our, which is what we called. So star rating is what on Amazon is whether it gets 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, so on. So it's not an integer because there's decimal points. So it's a decimal. You can have 4.5 stars out of 5 as a review on Amazon. We want price, star rating price from. I'm using my second database. This should be capitals. It'll work in lowercase, but it's more readable and it's more correct to use uppercase. And we want to, a lot of them have got null. If they've not got a rating, then it's just null, and we're not interested in where there's no ratings, because that does nothing for our graph. So we'll say where the star rating's more than 1, and then we order by price ascending, and then we just put dbcon at the end because it needs to know what connection it's using. So there we go. A separate line. Good. So we've attempted to make a query to the database that we are hopefully connected to. Next, we need to just let's just make a data frame and then pd.data frame. Oh, what a mess. Start again. PD data frame. So a lot of this is case sensitive, so just watch out for that. Query. So PD data frame SQL query. So we want to execute the query, and the columns we're interested in. So these will be the pandas, how pandas sees it. So, and then we want price. So here we transfer the query into a pandas data frame, and then that allows us to work with it. We'll just do a print there just so that we can see what's going on. And then let's just put the except in down here. Except if it all goes wrong, we're just printing error message, error, unable to connect, stroke convert the data. check connection and code. We need to do db close at the end, dbcon.close at the end. I think that might actually be ready for testing, so let's just test it. And then we will do Python 3. And there's another typo, sorry about this. Right. Hooray! 17 minutes and we have success. Okay, so we've got a data frame with 52 books. I don't know what's going on with those two. Oh, because I'm only looking for star rating greater than 1. I'm not actually removing any books or filtering out books that don't have a price. I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so let's prepare our graph, which is going to be the fun bit. Plot bar, and then we say x equals price, so that will be the horizontal axis, and then we'll say y equals star rating, and we'll make the color of the graph, we'll make it green, and then I'll give it a title as well, so it's PLT title, ratings v price, Amazon books, and then we will do plt.show, which is always the bit that makes the graph at the end. So when we run it, the script will stay open until you close the graph, and that's fairly normal, so just watch out for that. 52, here we go, it's making the graph, and here we have a graph. And if I make it bigger, look at that. So that's a typo, that's rings. I've got cold hands today, it's not very warm here, so doesn't help your typing when you're already a poor typist. Okay, let's run it again, and just it will work, but we just want to make the title look correct. Just minimize that, maximize the graph. Ratings versus price, Amazon books. And here we can see this axis, the y-axis is ratings 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, it does it in is that increments of 0.25? Looks like it. So I think in Amazon no, maybe I think it is to 2 decimal places, so that looks like it's kind of 4.33. Yeah, well anyway, it's worked, so I'm happy with that. Then we can see the cheapest web scraping book is $7.99, and the dearest one in our selection is £63.97. And as you can see, as the price goes up, the more to the right it goes, the higher the price of the book. And there's no real correlation between the ratings, how much people like a book compared to its price. So really, this is not an exercise in analysing consumer behaviour as such. It's an exercise in producing a example of a graph using Matplotlib and Pandas to make a visual representation of the data which you have collected in your database. And yeah, what we've done is we've used Matplotlib to make the graph. We've used Pandas to actually make a data frame from MySQL, and that was the bit which was the important, well, it's all important, but that's the bit to kind of learn. Read underscore SQL underscore query. That's where Pandas gets the data with a query from the database, the AMZ database, which is that. You can see inside the AMZ database I've got two tables. So here I'm using the second one, AMZ books 2. And then we create a data frame. If you want, you could have extracted more than two pieces, more than two columns, if you had two columns available. Starting simple, and we'll build on that. So hopefully this has been interesting, and if it has, then please give me a thumbs up, ask any questions, and yeah, I will be back soon with more stuff for you.